Now in Unit 8, we focus on one of the concluding aspects of the section on Israel's idolatry, and that is chapter 10, verses 1 through 16, the satire on idolatry. In this particular passage, Jeremiah, in the introduction to this section, warns them against following the way of the nations. Again, from the very call for kingship. In 1 Samuel chapter 8, God acquiesces to the people, and kingship is instituted, of course, beginning with Saul. But they wanted a king like the nations. And so the warning of Jeremiah about this issue of idolatry, because they, of course, incorporated this aspect of the ways of the nations. They wanted to be like the nations, and so they incorporated a level of polytheism, worship of many gods, and Jeremiah in this chapter tries to show the absurdity. He's talked about idolatry from chapter 1 up to this point as a key aspect of Israel's rejection of the covenant. Now in the satire, he tries to part by part show the utter futility of their worship of these various idols. So satire on idolatry is chapter 10. So he begins, and I'm just highlighting again as he introduces this particular passage. So it's not the typical Vayehi that we've seen in the past, but El Derek Hagoyim, in the way of the nations, Al Tilamudu, that is, do not learn. Do not be trained in the way of the nations, O house of Israel. Thus says, Ko Amar Adonai, thus says the Lord, to the way of the nations do not learn. V'ma'oto Hashemayim al Tzachatu. The way of the nations, don't be terrified by the signs of the heavens, as the way that the nations are terrified by them. Don't be afraid of what might happen as a result of these gods, because in fact they are meaningless, they are useless, because the ways of the people are wood and stone. Decorated, he says, in fanciful fashion, silver and gold, fastened together with hammer and nails, but they're like scarecrow in a cucumber field. They can't speak, they got to be carried around, because they can't walk. Do not fear, because they can do no harm. And then he breaks into an acclamation. There is none like you, O Lord. You are great, and great is your name in its might. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? Indeed, it is your due. So, don't fear the gods of the nations. You better fear the one true God who is about to bring judgment upon you. In spite of the fact that Jeremiah warns them, they continued to worship the idols of wood, silver brought from afar. So that he goes and describes the length of which they go to bring gold and silver and other precious gems, special cloths imported from Phoenicia, violet and purple made from the murex shells along the Mediterranean coast. All of these things that they're utilizing to make these gods who were voiceless, powerless, totally useless. And so the absurdity again, the gods that did not make the heavens and the earth will perish from the earth, verse 11, and from under the heavens. He does that play on the covenant language of heaven and earth that were witnesses to the covenant back in Deuteronomy. Because it is He, the God of Israel, who made the heavens by His power, who established the world by His wisdom, and by His understanding He has stretched out the heavens. He utters forth His voice and controls nature and creation. Absurdity of idolatry here couched in a satire. The God of Israel, creator, maker of heavens and earth, is the one who is to be feared, not the powerless, useless gods of the nations. And in our world today, we are so prone to do the same. We've made idols out of the elements of our world for our own pleasure.